Morning, everybody. I'm going to switch a little bit. We were talking about tires before. We're going to talk about air cleaners really quick today. Real short video on how to check an air cleaner and what to look for. But, air cleaners are probably one of the more overlooked. We talked about tires being overlooked. Air cleaners are probably one of the more overlooked pieces of equipment on your car as well, because we really don't think about them. And until somebody tells us that we should check them and we should maybe change our air cleaner is about the only time we really think about it. Um, Air cleaners are important because they filter out all the contaminants, well, most of the contaminants from an engine. So uh, it is not unusual to find inside your air cleaner cowling or your covers to find everything from leaves and grasshoppers and dragonflies and small rocks and whatnot. And imagine that gets inside of your engine. Of course, that would be, pretty hard on an engine to have all that stuff rattling around on the inside. So we use an air filter to keep that stuff out of our engine. Now, my truck here has a 5.4 liter engine. So what does that mean? It means, well, this is a quart jar, so it's a little smaller than a liter, which means that every time my engine makes 2 revolutions, that the engine turns twice, it is dragging in 5.4 liters, or almost 6 quarts of air every time that engine makes 2 revolutions. So at 2,000 RPMs, which is a normal highway speed for most vehicles, this engine would be sucking in basically 5,400 liters of air every minute. So that's a lot of air that's got to come into this engine. And imagine if that air wasn't filtered and all the crap that we would drag in. It's important to have a good clean air filter. You don't have to change air filters often, but you should take a look at them periodically. Also look at your owner's manual. It will tell you when you should be changing your air filter. So imagine your air filter, if it's plugged, it'd be like your engine trying to breathe through a drinking straw. So if you've ever tried to breathe through a drinking straw, or here's a challenge: go out and run around your house a couple times as fast as you can, grab a drinking straw, and then try to breathe through that. You'll know how hard that is. Well, it's the same thing with your engine. Your engine has to work really hard if it's trying to drag 5,400 liters of air in through a dirty filter. The other thing that happens too when air filters are dirty is your engine is going to get that air from somewhere. If it can't get it through the normal ductwork and through the filter, it's going to start pulling air up through the engine by the pistons. Of course, when it's pulling air by the pistons, it's also pulling oil up in there. And you will find that your oil consumption goes up incredibly if your air filter is dirty. So if you all of a sudden are burning a lot of oil, or you notice that, hey, I just checked my oil about 2-3 weeks ago and I'm already down a quart, check your air filter, because there's a chance that if your air filter is dirty, again, it's going to be sucking air by the pistons up through the engine, dragging oil up with it at the same time and burning that off. So if you're going through a lot of oil, check your air filter. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of it real quick here. Let me adjust my camera. Usually there is some duct work, and mine is pretty obvious. There's a hose that leads to the side of the engine, and it's kind of pulling the air through this ductwork into my air cleaner. Somewhere on your engine, you're going to see something that's got some sort of a clip on there. And it might be difficult from that far away to see the clips on mine, but mine is really, really simple. I just got 2 clips that open up. Sometimes you might have like 4 clips, 2 on the top of the air filter, 2 on the bottom of the air filter that you have to, or the air filter housing that you have to loosen up in order to get the air filter out. But mine on this one is incredibly simple. 2 clips, tray slides out, and there's my air filter. This is a dry element air filter, as almost all air filters are right now. This one's in pretty good shape. I bought this one, it's probably been last fall, I believe, is when I bought this thing. This is the back side. This is the one that actually is contact with the crud that's coming in. You can see I've got a couple things, the starlings have been drilling into the side of the school here, and that styrofoam insulation. If you've ever seen little white balls of styrofoam and wonder what they are, it's because the starlings are drilling into the insulation on the side of the building. And I actually have one of those pieces right there by my finger. I got a little piece of that white stuff. Imagine that getting inside my engine. I'm looking inside the air filter housing itself, and I can see that I've got quite a few leaves in there. And again, that would be on the intake side, so that's good. I wouldn't want it on the outtake side, or the side that's going into the engine. So this filter is doing its job. It is very difficult to look at an air filter and say that it's dirty. This one is pretty clean. But as I roll the pleats, most of your dirt is going to sit down inside of the pleats. So it's kind of tough sometimes to see just how dirty these things are without really opening them up and getting them in there. Should you blow out an air filter? It's not usually recommended, because most of the time we run the air pressure on a compressor way too high, and we end up blowing stuff, and we can actually end up blowing holes into our paper. And an air filter with a hole in it is, it's not as effective as an air filter that doesn't have a hole in it. So it's good practice just to buy an air filter. Now, people that live on gravel roads, and I know, TJ, you live on a gravel road not very far, you don't have a lot of access to gravel, but if you run on gravel roads a lot, you want to try and change these out maybe a little more often, because then, as you can imagine, all that road dust is coming into this air filter. So you want to keep an eye on that. And so if your car owner manual says change the air filter every 20,000 miles, you might want to take a look at it at about 10 and see if you need to change it, and maybe change it often a little more, maybe at 15. But again, kind of use your judgment. But again, always go with what your owner's manual says. If it says change these at 25,000 miles, every 25,000 miles, change them at every 25,000 miles. So, and they're really easy to change. You just want to make sure that you get them in the correct way when you put them back in. Make sure that they sit down nice and tight, that they aren't binding or pinching. Or if there's a rubber gasket around there, instead of this one's got a felt gasket, if there's a rubber gasket, that you're not rolling that gasket in while you put this air filter in. You're not rolling up the edge of it, like something like that. That would create a hole where air would bypass this gasket here. And then just insert it back in there. Make sure that it should go in pretty easy. If you have to force it, something's not lining up, take your time. It should slide in there really easy. Put your 2 clips up, or however many clips that you have on that air filter, and then secure it back into place. Really simple, but a very important piece of equipment to keep your engine running for a long period, or for many, many miles. We want to get a couple 100,000 miles out of these vehicles. So this is one of the few things that is really easy to do on the operator maintenance side, and it will save you a lot of headaches down the road. So that's it for today. I hope everybody is doing well. Make sure that you socialize, contact people, get together with your classmates on Skype or Google Meets or whatever, but make contact with people and stay in touch. And we'll get through this. So please be safe in the meantime. Everybody stay well. And until next time, we'll see you later.